Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode in my little impromptu mini-series on fixing up my BMW 760LI ahead of its sale. I've created this series so that whoever winds up getting the car can see what has actually been done to it and hopefully sees the value in it, and also just for my own personal satisfaction to show that I have taken the car, cared for it, looked after it. When I got this car, there are a few things that the seller neglected to mention to me. Unfortunately, because of my own busy schedule, by the time I actually was able to deal with anything, it was far too late for me to have any sort of comeback with the dealer. Completely my own fault, but I'm the sort of person that would rather fix the car and do right by it than try and just pass on the problems to somebody else. So, in today's little video, you are going to see something very, very unusual. You're going to see me working on one of my own cars and fixing a problem. Do enjoy. What is the problem? Well, allow me to get out my little handy POV camera and show you. Now, this 7 Series has, as you might imagine, super adjustable electric seats with a million-way adjustment. And they have an interesting way of working. So you choose which bit of the seat you want to activate, and then this dial will move the thing, like so. Unfortunately, on this car, the seat thigh support here is broken. You can hear the motor working, but it does nothing. Now, I had a look online and it turns out that this is a fairly common problem, certainly on the 5 Series and so on and so forth. So I found an online guide for how to solve the problem with those, and what I'm going to do now is get this working. Now, I know that this should work because I've actually already done the driver's side and involved a lot of swearing, wailing and gnashing of teeth, but it doesn't take a lot of time, and it doesn't cost a lot to do this fix either. It's a £7 part. This is what has actually broken. So, things you will need. You're going to need a cushion for your knees, in my case, because my driveway is gravel and horrible. You are also going to need some basic tools. So, I've just got a little electric screwdriver thing here. I got some pliers. I got a trim removal tool. I actually bought some speakers from BAV Sound years ago for my E46 M3, and it came with a whole bunch of different little bits which are really, really handy, especially these sort of plastic trim removal tools. You can buy these quite easily, so this is handy. House keys you don't really need, but these are the kind of essentials. It's all Torxes is what we're dealing with on this car. You need, I think, T10, 20 and 30. So we're just going to get started. So what we're going to do, I'm going to rest this camera down here. First thing that we do is remove the actual thigh bolster support itself, and that's done simply by 2 Torxes being undone here, and you can also see some wires connected to it which will need to be disconnected as well, and that's fairly easy. I know that nothing's really that complicated because I can do it. If I can do it, that means that anybody can do it. So, there we have it. Now, these all come out quite easily. It's quite obvious how they kind of pull out. One of them just pulls out. You can actually, I'll tell you what, flip it over. So you see here, so this just unclips. So you pull that in, that'll come out. And then this one, again, just, actually the whole thing comes loose. So you see it's got a little cradle it sits in. The problem with doing these things is it's very difficult to do some of this one-handed. So this comes apart, as does this. Next stage, we get this trim off, and you can see that there is a piece here just holding it in. So I'm going to get this little doohickey underneath, and you can use it to there you go. Just actually did it by hand in the end. And then here, this rotates round. Sounds hideous, and this is the worst one to put back in, honestly. That comes out, so that goes down there. This again pops straight out, and then you'll also want to get this down again, pop straight out. So we're already pretty far into the meat of it. Next thing you have to do is undo, I think the sum total 10 different screws that are here. These are the T20s, so I'm going to go ahead and do those now. So this car is eventually going to go up for sale soon, and it's little things like this that really annoy me. So when I bought this car, the guy told me that everything was working on the car. And then when I went to pick it up, he told me, oh yeah, by the way, these don't work. Now, yeah, you can adjust them manually, but for me, if someone said to me everything works, that means everything works. And as these are reasonably easily fixed, I would expect them to be fixed. So I want them fixed for the car's next owner. I have got a project coming up, which means I'm probably not going to be able to keep this car forever. And that's a shame, because as a super luxurious daily driver and for playing taxi for my family, it's a wonderful thing. It's really, truly magnificent. And for £10,000 or so, it's a lot of car. Now that this is all free and loose, you got to get it out. And I won't beat about the bush. It is a devil. With the 7 Series in particular, you've got, I think, extra bits under the seat versus the 5. So you really just need to operate these controls to try and get the seat in a position where you can get these out easily. And sometimes I've actually found that having the seat as far up as which you would think would be the most sensible actually blocks the path of some of these parts. And this is connected. This is the really key bit. So you're going to see this in a minute. So we're just going to try and get this out, and then you'll see what it is that's the actual problem. One thing that does not help is this little wire clipped in down here. Just this one little here. And it's a devil. It's a complete bugger to get out. You have to use a pair of needle nose pliers to clip it, and I wound up breaking off a little part of it, nothing that was essential, because that's probably been in there since the car was new. So yeah, it's a pain, but it has to come out in order for the motor to get out. Well, that was a lot easier than the first time around, I can tell you. There's a little pad underneath the seat in the 7 Series, which makes life more difficult, I think, than in others. I don't know what it does, but it's solid. Okie dokie, come on. There we go. Whew, that was a lot easier than the first time round. So, what I now do, we decamp to the garage. We have to pull this apart and get to the actual root of our problem. So, this is the actual motor, and in here is our issue. To get access to this, you have to undo these 3 screws, which are T20s, and also these 3 cleverly hidden ones, which I believe are T10s. Yes, T10s. Then once you've done that, there are 5 little clips which hold the whole thing together, which do require a little bit of fiddling, a little bit of swearing to actually sort. Oh look, guest appearance by my cat Bear, who's very rarely seen on camera. Florence is the attention whore, and Bear's a little bit more shy. But let's get these off and let's get this out, shall we? Alright, so as you can probably tell, that is pretty much the most annoying bit of the entire venture. So, we have in here the source of our problem. You see, this whole system is operated by this little motor that then drives this gear here, which in turn turns both sides. The main gear is metal, but it's surrounded with this little plastic, I guess it's a gear as well, and you can see quite obviously why this has failed. I mean, I guess perhaps it's deliberate, because the way this is designed, it's always these that's going to fail. This is probably going to break long before the motor does, and this is a lot cheaper to fix than the motor, so maybe it's intentional. But the fix, which should be quite a long-term one, is a rather simple one. For the princely sum of about £7 off eBay, I have bought one of these, which is a metal version, a brass I think, of the same thing. And you're going to need to take this and this black plastic end cap off, apply some grease, and slot this in, which is what I'm going to do now. So now we have our reconstructed motor back, we've got to get on with the arduous task of refitting it under here. Now, I've already done the driver's side on this car. That was no fun at all. But I'm hoping, as everything else so far is going much smoother, that second time round for this is going to be a lot better too. So let's get on with that, shall we? You see, even though it looks like it's nearly in, it's actually just off to the side. And with this silly little cushion thing under here, and so many other parts, it's just a nightmare to get it back into place. Fortunately, there are a whole bunch of things that give you hints as to how close that you are. I'll show you, for the benefit of those that are actually doing this at home, the really tricky bit. This right here is got to be lifted up and rolled into place. If you keep trying to bring it up straight up, there's a lip here that supports this, and you have a hell of a time. So you've got to bring it in at a sort of L-shape curve. But now everything's lined up, that sits there. All I've got to do, put all the screws in, and I plug this in, and then test it. Hopefully it will now work. Fingers crossed. Click and ta-da! Ha! Brilliant! Now let's reassemble everything. See you next week. Bye-bye.